All right, we are ready to put our card together. So I have my card base here, and I've got a mat here that's going to let some of that red cardstock show. I'm going to leave the lid off my glue just for convenience. So I'm going to glue my mat, my cream piece onto my red piece. Now, like I said before, once all the pieces are ready to go, this works fairly fast and it comes together quite fast. So I'm going to use some of my green pieces. I only put glue on the stem towards the center. There's no need for glue on the whole thing. I'm trying to do it the same way as I did my sample, but I don't remember exactly what order I put them in. So just because we've got die cuts here doesn't mean we need to keep them all together. We can cut them smaller, especially if you have a smaller card. If you have a bigger card, you might want full die cuts, but if you've got a smaller one, there's no need to keep them whole. The only thing that I would ensure is that your ends look pretty. And by saying that, I wouldn't cut like say a stem right there. I would cut it where it joins with something else, just so the part that's sticking out looks nice. I'm going to do the same thing with these berries. I'm going to cut them right at the base of a stem. And the nice thing is by cutting them, like this will be easier to see here. By cutting them, you have basically two different branches here that look different rather than having all the same poking out. Now, if you had all the same poking out, really, chances are it would still look beautiful. You wouldn't necessarily notice, but it is also nice to have a bit of a variation. And you can see that I don't wait for things to dry before adding the next piece. The nice thing about using some liquid adhesive is you've got some movement time. So if, as I'm layering things up, if I want to move something, I can still do that. So I'm just kind of creating a nice base to kind of nestle that poinsettia in. I wait until the end to put my candle in so that I can position it where I can see it. If I position it now, chances are I might put something in front of it or want to put something in front of it. And by waiting, I can just put it exactly where I want it. It doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same spot as my sample, but general area is good enough. I'm going to put my poinsettia in the center here, and that's going to cover all that stem mess there. But I do like to sometimes put it in front there just to see what I'm missing, if there's something that I need. I'm going to cut this apart here. Oh, it's joined in two spots there. And add a little sprig here. And it's one of these things, there's not really a right, I mean, there is a right or wrong, but there isn't. It's personal preference. So just because, like on my sample, just because I put something in one area doesn't necessarily mean I need that in that same area. This one here, I think I'm going to cut this shorter. It's poking a little bit higher than I would like right now. I'm going to put this guy right in here. And even though my poinsettia was this way last time, it doesn't necessarily need to be for this. I think I'm going to actually put it this way. I also think I'm going to put this right here so it pokes right behind it. Now I'm going to put my poinsettia in. I like to put a whole lot there. I want to make sure that I've got it good and contacted with my stuff below there. And now I'm going to put my candle in. I'm using the glue that I will typically use, which is Distress Collage Medium. I like it because it dries completely clear and it also dries matte. So while I'm working, if I happen to drag it on something and it moves or whatnot, it's going to dry clear and it's going to dry matte. You're never going to know where that is. Now that I've got basically everything done, I think I want another thing of berries right in here. So I shouldn't have put my lid on my bottle there. So this is why it's great to have just a whole bunch of die cuts that you can play with, that you can cut up. This here, there's not enough room to put this whole stem, but I can certainly put just a little piece of holly here, just to kind of break that greenery up and fill that in. Just gonna put one, and then I'm also actually gonna put this thing of berries right there as well. So you can see that they're not exactly the same. They're similar, but they're definitely not exactly the same, and they don't need to be. There we go. Perfect. You can see a little bit of glue there, but once this completely dries, you'll never even know it's there. Oops. So there we are. I am going to be careful with this. Some of that glue might be almost dry, but some of it is certainly still wet, so I'm not going to move it around too much. I'm going to keep it fairly flat. But there you go. A beautiful little arrangement with some texture. Now I chose not to put a sentiment on here. You certainly could if you wanted to stamp and emboss a sentiment. What I would generally do is put something in the inside. But I also like to leave them blank until I'm actually going to use them, because some people I'd want to write a personal message in there, and some people I'd just put a general stamp or whatnot and then just to and from. And there you are. One beautiful textured Christmas card. Now these are all Christmas cards. You certainly could do this for other occasions. It would be beautiful for a wedding. But the one thing is you would want to make sure to have an envelope that could allow for some extra dimension. These are going to be very flexible, so to go through the mail, they're totally fine. But you want to make sure that you have something that's going to allow for some of that dimension there.